Hello and welcome to the year of being 70 with me, Lucy Macara, and my friend Lisette Schoutemaker. This is our weekly podcast about what we are doing and thinking and being during the 12 months that we have both turned 70.
Yes, and this is our last podcast of the year. We'll be back for season two starting in January. And this week we're going to talk about now you've been 70 for 2 months. I've been 70 for 3 months. So we are experienced 70-year-olds. So how does being 70 feel, Lucy?
Yes, well, let's just we'll definitely dive into that. And yes, it's coming up also, of course, to our 71st Christmas and our 71st New Year. Doesn't that sound extraordinary? So we're going to have a sort of look back at our childhood Christmases back in the 50s and 60s. Lisette's in Holland, in the Netherlands, and mine in well, mostly in London, actually. And we're going to look forward to what we've both got planned for 2025. I think as 70-year-olds or just people, we're both pretty busy and we've got lots of plans. But let's talk about what it feels like to be 70. Well, you've been 70 for a bit longer than me,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can start.
I go first. Well, I'm still, kind of marveling at this. I'm also marveling it's going to be the year 2025. It's
I
like
know.
I remember it turning the year 2000, and we thought, all computers would stop and the world would kind of end or begin anew. And so this kind of 25th anniversary of our century. But how is it being 70? I just wrote a bio for a blog that I know, a podcast I'm going to be on. And I said, well, how do I describe myself? Always difficult. So I started with, I'm a young 70-year-old. And that's actually how I feel. I'm still young in the 70-year-old. When you say a 71st Christmas, that's already feeling, oh my goodness, I'm
I
going
know.
to
That's how
that
that feels
direction.
older, doesn't it, than 71st, 71 somehow feels older than 70. I mean,
70, we're still a bit with the people in their 60s.
yeah.
71, we're truly into that decade. But all in all, I really feel good. My life is good. I have made it part of my life to be fit. I'm doing a weekly hour training, so I almost always have muscle ache, but that's really good. And yeah, I'm in this time when parts of my life speak to one another, and I speak to a person, and they're kind of finding the same kind of issue in an organization that they're connected with, and we can speak about. I don't know. I feel there's a lot of threat out there, but there's a lot of harmony and peace and positive work in here.
Yeah, yes. No, I think I feel very similar. I kind of feel that at 70, we're kind of consolidating. We've had the kind of the learning phase, perhaps up to our 40s or something, and then we've had the doing and experiential phase through to now. And now all of that is kind of consolidating and turning into a usable wisdom. I think, you've talked about wanting to be wise when you were grown up, and I feel that there is, I mean, I don't say I'm the wisest person in the world, but I do feel that there's a level of wisdom and experience to draw on, in a really positive way. And like you, I feel young. I certainly don't feel like I'm yet declining or checking out or slowing down, anything like that. I feel reasonably healthy because I've lost quite a lot of weight, so that's been a good thing in this. I'm sure I'm not as fit as you, but
Well
still,
done, Lucy.
but losing weight's a good thing, and I walk dogs and stuff, so it'll have to do. Um, but yes, but also, yeah, I mean, last at the weekend on Saturday night, my two sons took me out to dinner. I think this is that was my final celebration of being 70. That was my late birthday present from them.
How
And
lovely. What a lovely idea to be just, the three of you.
it was lovely. It really, and I mean, they're now, I talk about them as my boys, but they're both 40 plus or 40 and 40 plus. And it's just so nice. They're so, we're all grown-ups together. It doesn't feel like, I no longer have to be mum or, kind of playing that role. We're just all grown-ups, all doing interesting stuff, all working, all thinking. And it was, yes, it was really, really delightful. So that's nice.
Sweet. Very sweet. And they have children of their own
They
already
do,
too.
yes,
They really
exactly.
are doing the grown-up life.
Yes.
If having children is a grown-up life, what am I saying now? What nonsense am I speaking now?
Well, it's we know this. You don't have children, never wanted children, and you're perfectly grown up without them. Do you ever
Yeah.
feel that makes you that not having children makes you younger?
Not having children makes me younger. I think physically, childbirth and being pregnant takes a lot out of a
Yeah,
woman.
you're absolutely
And
right.
also, there's a whole realm of worry that I don't have. I think parents, always worry. My mother used to always worry about one of us. And
Yeah,
I
it
think
never stops.
you're an employee in the worry factory. You just, you if it's not about me, then it's about my youngest brother. Then there's always someone to worry about. And of
Definitely.
course, I have that much less.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes me younger. There's also things, of course, that young people bring into your lives that, AI but you're still so much with that yeah, I have to keep up with. So maybe, there is an element of that, but I don't know if that's a general thing.
No, I mean, I think actually children make you both older and younger, as you say. There's this
Yeah.
constant feeling of responsibility and worry that never really goes away, even when they are in their 40s. And then there are grandchildren to worry about and all that sort of thing. But on the other hand, when they were children and now grandchildren, they bring that, they bring youth culture, if you want to kind of
Yeah.
characterizes as that into your life. And I find that fascinating and really, really interesting to sort of understand how life is being lived by them at the moment and how they experience life. And some of it, of course, is exactly the same as it was for us, and some of it's very different. I find it highly amusing that my 13-year-old grandson goes off on sort of shopping treks now with his friends and buys sort of very wide leg bell-bottom jeans, which is exactly what I was doing at his age.
And
Fashion.
being very excited about this novelty.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Fashion comes round and round,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is fascinating. But Lisette, what was Christmas like for you when you were a child in Holland? I have no real because you do celebrate in a slightly different way. For instance, I mean, Christmas Day is not the main day, is it, in the Netherlands?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about Christmas when I was young is the snow and cold and ice and skating on the little lake, a bit further down our street. And so it was cold. So naturally, yeah, I mean, you came in and had, hot chocolate milk because you were really cold. And of course, that has really, really changed in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
does your lake or your lakes not freeze over anymore?
no,
No.
no, it's been a while. It's been a while since that has happened.
Wow.
And even people who go to ski in Switzerland, there's not really snow there.
No, no.
Uh, you really see weather patterns and climate change happening in our life. So the first thing that comes to mind to me is like this white wonder world. But my parents were not religious. So Christmas for us was more a family thing than a religious thing, although my father used to read the story of Jesus' birth, and he would kind of have this grave voice and read this. But but none of us really knew, what to make of it. So we didn't go. I think, Catholic families would go to church on the 24th and then really celebrate the birth of the light or the light giver or the light bearer or however they experienced Jesus figure, Jesus person. And then I think it was, yeah, grandmothers coming.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's basically who came. And my father's mother was a widow from age, I don't know, even before she was 40. So all her life, I knew her only as a widow, and she remained that, which I think is rare now. And then my mother was an only child, so her parents would come and my grandmother would come, and we would kind of sit around a Christmas tree. But of course, we would not have presents because our presents were already given by Sinterklaas, St. Nicholas, on the 5th of December.
On the 5th of, oh, right. That's very different. Yes, to a British Christmas.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
how is? Tell me about a British Christmas.
So I mean, the first probably 10 Christmases of my life, I think, were all identical. I mean, they were exactly the same. They ran to a kind of schedule, which was lovely. I mean, I we absolutely loved Christmas. We would have put up a Christmas tree, a big Christmas tree, in the corner of our drawing room, which sort of reached to the ceiling, and decorated it with old-fashioned sort of dangling Christmas baubles and candles. We certainly didn't have any electric lights on the tree. We would have candles that would get lit once on Christmas Day, always with a bucket of water and a sponge at hand in case anything bad happened. But then on Christmas Day, we'd go to sleep on Christmas Eve, me and my brothers, with a big stocking, well, actually, a big sock of my father's, which I don't think he ever wore, on the end of our beds. And we'd try and stay awake for as long as possible for Father Christmas, Santa Claus, to come and fill them. And sometime in the night, my mother would come up and swap them for the other leg of the stocking, and which was full of presents. And then we'd wake up in the morning, probably far too early, and go and get into my parents' beds and bed and unwrap all the presents in the stocking, which were probably very minimal compared to what children get now, but we were highly excited. And in the foot of the stocking there would always be, or I think, an orange, an apple, and nuts, which of course we had no interest in whatsoever, but they had to be there.
Tradition.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then after breakfast, which we would have separately to my parents, there, yes, no, no, always, we always ate separately to them when I was young.
Even
We
on Christmas Day.
eat breakfast, yes, we would have lunch with them on Christmas Day, but I think, yeah, no, breakfast was always separate. And then I think we would be allowed to open what we called our main present, so our presents from our parents, before church. Then we would all go off to church. Normally, again, we'd go to separate churches. My parents went to a grown-up type church, and we went
Oh,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a
Yeah.
children's service normally every Sunday. But we all went to the children's service on Christmas Day. And then when we got back, my grandmother, my father's mother, would come to lunch, and we would then have, I don't know what happened after lunch exactly. Oh no, it was also sometimes we would also go for a walk with my father before lunch if we didn't go to church. No, we must have gone. Anyway, so my grandmother would come to lunch, and then for tea, all the rest of our family, my mother's family particularly, she had four brothers and sisters. They would all come to lunch, to tea, with or without their
And why
partners.
did they come to you? Why did you
I
never
think
go to the other's
I
house?
think we had the biggest house. I think
And
that
your
that
mother was the eldest daughter.
now my mother was the eldest daughter, of course.
And
So we would then
the biggest house. Okay. Yeah.
yes, yes, and kind of central London as well. So they would all come to tea, and we would unwrap all the rest of our presents, and then we would all go and sit round the dining room table, and there would be two pots of tea, one with Indian tea and one with China tea. I have no idea why. I have no
Ah,
idea why that. I just remember that, and then they would go upstairs, and they would probably have a drink of sherry or something before they left, and that would be Christmas Day, and it was the same. It was kind of like a kind of Mary Poppins version of Christmas, really, in those days, because we had our nanny and either a cook and or an au pair girl who cooked living in. So it was very sort of secure and safe
Hmm. Yeah,
and
I think children, it's nice when you have a tradition and children can kind of rest in that and they know the family is coming and that's all kind of reassuring. I think even on a cellular level, because
yeah.
cells kind of recognize the familiar cells in other people. But you said so this was the first 10 years and then it changed.
I
What?
think it well maybe it was more 12 years perhaps. Yeah, when I was 12, I think we started then we bought a we had a holiday home in Aldborough by the sea. And we started maybe a bit later than that going to Aldborough for Christmas. And then it was sort of slightly different, and we were a bit older, and the rest of the family didn't. I mean, there may have been some family staying, but they weren't around to kind of come in and drop in for tea or anything. So it became a slight. But again, it was very sort of very regulated and similar every year, and very nice too. But
Yeah. And
yes.
so what do you do now? What do
Oh,
you do for Christmas?
Oh gosh, it's sort of very unfixed now. It depends who's around. So I live with my husband and my two daughters who are in their 20s, so they're at home. This year, nobody else is coming to us, but before and after Christmas, we'll be seeing other people. So it will be. I think I've probably although I have great affection for the way my life was as a child and the regulatedness and the order of it, I think I've kind of rebelled against it in a way because my life is, I absolutely do not run my life that way. Meals are not at fixed times in my house. We don't do things a particular way or not anything like, we used to. Because my father was extremely he needed order in his life to kind of and my mother kind of worked around that. Everything was worked around his need and his need for order. So
Hmm. Do you have a Christmas tree?
well, I feel really bad this year. I mean, normally I do. I've never not done it before, but this year I literally have not got a Christmas tree. I've not put up a single decoration, and I'm buying the absolute minimal amount of presents just for the grandchildren, basically, and for my family at home. And God, I feel so relieved. I feel relieved of the
Yay!
of the pressure to have Christmas at my house this year. So yeah, no, I'm not doing anything really.
But that's so interesting that you speak about that, relieved and the pressure because it is a big production.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I've
absolutely.
never in my adult life had a Christmas tree.
Oh, really? How
I've
interesting.
really, there's some parts of me that are really irrational. I go like all these poor Christmas trees are being cut down and then they're worshipped and we dance around them and we sing and we have these Dutch songs of, oh, Christmas tree, how beautiful are your lights. And then, the beginning of January, they're all chucked out and they lie about on the streets and they're like unwanted. And I hope they're being somehow, recycled or burnt or I don't know. But I've never it's like not eating animals, not having a Christmas tree. But I do have some decorations. I do have some lights and some decorations. Every year I get my box with, and I'm kind of, oh, what do I have? What do I have? And yours is he comes from a Catholic tradition. So for him, it was very much church and family, and I think also more protocol than with us. And he's like, he kind of lets me do it and then likes it anyway.
Yes. Oh,
And
well,
I have
that's.
amaryllis bulbs. That's what I like a lot. These big red flowers that
Oh, right. Yes.
they have everything in the bulb. You don't even need to plant them. You don't need to water them. So they're the easiest. They carry everything with them to flower. And I like that symbol too.
Oh, fantastic. So what do you do actually on Christmas Day? Do you have, I mean, is there a traditional Christmas meal in the Netherlands that you have or don't have?
We have, I know. I think, well, I have no idea. I have no idea really whether there's a traditional Christmas meal. I have just this one memory of my mother doing this novel thing. There was this novel dairy product, and she made a cheesecake. And it was still in our old house, as I would say it. So I must have been like 10. And and so that was the dinner. I don't know. My father was a hunter. So I think usually for Christmas we would eat duck or pheasant. We would eat game with cranberries, but I think that's all very English. I think that's not very Dutch. I don't know. I have no idea about cooking anyway. None of it.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
but my mother had made this cheesecake, and we all took a bite, and then we all went, oh, nobody liked it. And I burst into tears because I'd seen her cook and she'd come in, presenting this cake. And I burst into tears. I felt so sorry for her. And then my mother was
Oh,
like, never mind, never mind. We'll just go to coffee and chocolate. And I felt so kind of, oh, but you put so much into this. And then we don't like it. I'm still kind of unresolved about that. It just comes up now. I never talked about it with her. And of course, now that my mother has died, we don't go to her. We would always she would celebrate Christmas with my sister, basically.
right.
She was kind of, after my father died in 2008, she became kind of part of my sister's family. They lived on the same street, and they were really also very, very close friends, my mother and my sister.
So,
But we would come and gather because I feel, one of the great pleasures of mothers is to have all their children in the same space.
so you gave that to her, as it were. You
We
didn't
gave that to
necessarily
her. I
want it.
think, yeah, we would come like for a brunch on the second day of Christmas, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But this year, I'm also fully liberated. Just now, and there's always this kind of dance. What are you doing over Christmas and New Year's? And what are you doing? And it's kind of this, and I suddenly thought, why don't we, we're going to Paris for a
oh,
week tomorrow.
lovely.
And then we come back on the 23rd. And I said, just why don't we fully skip Christmas? We just don't do anything. And then we have some people in for what you call New Year's, and we call it Oudjaar. We call it Old Year's.
Uh,
So that's an interesting thing. Yeah.
that sounds perfect. That sounds absolutely great. I mean, yes, in the UK, we're very much tied to having turkey for Christmas
Oh,
dinner,
the poor
roast
turkeys.
potatoes, Brussels sprouts, which most people don't like at all and probably don't eat
I
ever the
think they
rest of
have
the year.
been adapted. They were very difficult to eat. I mean, children would not like Brussels sprouts
No, no, I don't.
when we were young, but they've been engineered, so they're much easier. They're really, actually, I love them.
Oh, do you? Yes,
Oh, do you?
I don't love them. But then, but other vegetables and what we have, cranberry sauce with the turkey. Sometimes something called white sauce, which is just a white gooey sauce. I don't know.
Yeah.
And um, and then we have Christmas pudding, which is sort of like a fruit steamed pudding. Again, nothing that you would never eat it the rest of the year because it's
Only at
really not very
Christmas.
nice.
But
And
I like things that belong to a particular day or a
yeah, I
particular
guess,
season.
yes. And then you have brandy butter or something like that on it, which is sort of the
Yeah.
nicer, sweeter bit. But and then Stilton cheese is very Christmassy in the UK
Hmm.
as well. So
I might pick some of
we would
that.
always get a big round Stilton cheese and then eat it for weeks afterwards, and it would go dry and disgusting, and but we'd have to get through it. So.
Yeah, so I always also wonder. I was just sitting with Sophia, who comes in on Tuesdays to clean our house, and asking her how it is to live in a country where, the days that are being celebrated are not her holidays, her
Yeah,
holy days. And and she hadn't really ever thought about it. But I feel more and more uncomfortable that all our holidays are grouped around the holy days for one particular religion. And yeah, I would love if we, kind of celebrated solstice
yeah, yeah.
because
I
that
mean,
is something that's there for everyone.
I think we do kind of recognize or things like Chinese New Year and other, other religious holidays, but they're not, as you say, they're not statutory holidays. I think that, we have, I mean, we do, I mean, New Year is not a religious festival
No,
here. And
no.
we have May Day, or the 1st of May is a bank holiday, and the other bank holidays are not particularly religious. But yeah, I mean, there's been, long-term discussion about whether we call it, whether we're allowed to call it the Christmas holiday, or whether we just call it
Oh, that's how it works. Now it's
the
kind of the end of year holiday or the
yes,
December
exactly,
holiday, things like that.
exactly.
Oh, okay. So it starts with language. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, yeah. And then people got very angry about not being allowed to use what they considered their right to call things what they wanted to call them. And I think most people talk about Christmas anyway now. But it is
Yes, but we talk about Christmas, but what are we actually celebrating?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not religious either, so nothing in particular except family and an end of year break and
Yeah.
just sort of family celebrations, a bit of slightly different food maybe.
Yeah. A lot of sitting together and
Yes,
chatting and
exactly.
yeah, having another glass of wine or hot chocolate or
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, well,
indeed.
here too.
So what have you got? You're going to have this lovely celebration for New Year. What have you got planned for next year for 2025 as a 70-year-old slash 71-year-old? What are your plans or goals
I
or
haven't made any plans, Len, yet, Lucy. I'm very much of the kind of evolving life. What is mine to do? I do have, starting to get things booked and conferences I'll attend and board meetings that are planned. I think it would be a good thing to plan finishing my book around the good money can do. That would be really a useful thing to do to get that done. Maybe the
yes.
first thing would need to be, for my other books, I had a publisher and I had a deadline, and then I just did it. And now the
Right.
deadline, so I just postpone it.
But I'm sure you'll find her. Are you going to look for a publisher before you finish writing it, or?
Well, first, I need to know a bit more what it's going to be.
Right.
For my other books, I had publishers, and they were quite fine with not knowing what it is, but they don't want to. Well, I haven't even tried a Dutch publisher. Those are kinds of things I ought to be doing. Otherwise, I aim to keep co-creating with life as it presents itself to me and keeping engaged with lots of the projects and investments and organizations that I'm connected with. And do the eldest daughter retreat in
Oh,
March.
yes, of course.
Bindhorn. But beyond March, I'm kind of still open and I like it that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not somebody who'd I mean, I see lots of people on social media, especially, and coaches talking about goal setting and aspirations for the next year and things like that. And I'm never like that really. And the other thing that the other thing, this is completely irrelevant. The other thing that really annoys me is the question that people keep asking at the moment, which is, what advice would you give your younger self? And I find that such an irritating question and so pointless. I wouldn't give my younger self any advice ever. She just did what she did, and she wouldn't have listened to any advice anyway. So, what would I?
Well, advice is but I was really this painfully shy child, with braces and glasses and not really understanding what was happening around me. So I would want to say to that younger child, because I marvel at who has become who I have become. I kind of, wow, I was such an awkward child. And now, you know, wow. So I
Yes,
would
you
want to
are.
say to
Wow.
her, yeah, but I would want to say to her, don't despair, live through it, and the flower will bloom.
Yeah, no, that is. That's a very good piece of advice to give to anybody's younger self, actually. But yeah, no, that's nice. I'll if I'm ever asked that again on a podcast or an interview or something like that, people have the habit of asking me, "What's your favorite book?" Which I can never answer, or "What's the book that's influenced you most?" I don't know. Just I read so many books that I couldn't possibly answer that
Well,
question.
the books that have influenced me most are the books that I've written myself.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so so I always have to either make something up for that or pass on the
Yeah.
question.
So I will have two questions on the table when we do Old Year's, New Year's. We will be with 8 people. There's 2 people I don't know. They're friends of friends. Jos knows one of them. And there's 2 friends of mine coming who know us, but not the other people. And I've asked all of them to bring a dish, which I think is lovely. And also, if they need cutters or stirrers, they can engage everybody. That's the whole idea. Also asked everybody to bring a quiz question, which I define as something we ought to know but may not know. And we will be 2 teams. So the nicest questions are where you have to kind of work together to come to the answer. Like I think last time I did is I asked you get 2 minutes and how many states of the United States do you actually know by name? And so people come in, get into a kind of a wanting to win, wanting to be quick, wanting to be better kind of mode was good. But I also had questions on the table, and I thought this year one question would be, um, what 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 did you do in 24 that you don't want to do again? And what is a new thing that you're going to do in 25?
Very good questions. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I can answer those questions. What I did in 2024 that I will never do again is I wrote another book on how to write books. And this is my absolute final word on the subject. I've written the book that is this time it's called Book Magic, and it's about how to write the book that builds your business, which I have written before, but this is an updated version and works alongside the Book Magic AI app. But that is it. That I will not write that book or anything approaching it again. And what I will do in 2025 that I didn't do in 2024 is finish writing my next novel, which I have started, and I feel kind of happy about it. I feel it's turned already into that other parallel world that you create when you're writing a book, that you kind of go, it doesn't matter whether it's fiction or non-fiction. When you've started writing a book, you've created a parallel world that you sort of live in all the time, but you dip in and out of when you're actually, you're in it when you're actually writing. And the rest of the time, it's sort of sitting there in your head, evolving, and ideas come to you and things. And I, I just love fiction, so I love reading it. It's what I do all the time, or listening to it mostly in my case now. And I'm loving writing, especially actually as it's sort of set in my childhood, and it's sort of based on my childhood, but the characters are all not real people. But it's set in my old house.
Yeah, we draw
And
our
so
own experience. Yeah.
yes. And so it's kind of, it's rather a nice place to be because I can make it anything I want, but also it is where I was when I was a little girl. So there's something very kind of warm and enjoyable about it. But there are a couple of things that you have to be very careful of, I think, when you're writing fiction based in your own life, is that a lot of it is in your head, and your reader cannot access it unless you actually tell them about it. And the other thing is that you can dwell on things that seem to be important little details that actually your reader doesn't need to know and is not relevant to your plot. So I have to bear all that in mind as I'm trying to create this
You should
world.
write a book about that,
Oh
Lucy.
God, no, not another book about. Well, I have written a book about writing fiction, which I could, that would be a possible rewrite, new version of that. Yeah, I
There
think
you go. There
that's a
you go.
That's a different kind of book. So yes, but I'm not
And
doing
will
that
you be
next year
using
anyway.
your book magic AI for the fiction book, for the novel?
I that is something I want to do next year. I mean, it'd be completely separate to Book Magic AI, and it wouldn't be called Book Magic. It wouldn't be part of that app because that's very specific about writing a business book. But I do, that is something I do want to start getting off the ground next year. And because it's so out of my current business life, I suppose, I will have to do that much more on my own without sort of relying on other structures and networks and people, I think, unless they want to come in and be part of it, but I'm guessing they probably don't. So I feel that that's going to be something in my 71st year that I'm going to have to step out and do on my own if I want it to happen, or be the main, sort of instigator of it. So that's a bit scary, but that's quite good. But I
And do you write like in the mornings from 6 to 9, or do you write? Where is your writing time?
My writing time has always tended to be in the evening, really, or late afternoon, kind of after I've finished worky stuff. I sometimes take time after that, or sometimes when I wrote my first novel, I had two little girls, and I put them to bed, had something to eat, and started work about 9 o'clock in the evening, and that was that was quite
How
demanding.
many hours? How many hours would
I
you
would
do?
sometimes work till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
Sometimes I would just do an hour or a couple of hours. But I was on a sort of self-imposed deadline then, so
yeah.
I had to get it done. But it was fine, and I loved it. It was like coming back again to my little private world at night when everybody else was either asleep or doing other things.
Winding down.
Winding down, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There's some sun here. Yeah.
So when do you do your writing?
Yes, when do I do my writing? That's a really good question because I have like a similar pattern. When I met yours, I would kind of do things and then start really, really working at 3 and then work until kind of 11, take a bath, and then go to bed. But when he has his working day during the day and kind of relaxes in the evening and reads a lot or wants to have a nice, dinner and conversation and things. So I've kind of adapted to his schedule, but it doesn't really work for me. So what I try is not to look at my email, but go into the writing straight away, and then kind of condense the rest of my working day from 1 to. So that's actually how I have written the other books. So that's what I
Interesting.
should do again.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping to grab some serious amounts of time over the Christmas New Year break, and I will do my utmost not to look at any work type stuff, not to check emails, but just to actually get a good amount of fiction written, which is a different headspace.
Yeah, well, that's my plan too, to kind of do some writing over the Christmas days. And yeah, yeah. I thought I would have a bit more time, but already kind of I have a sister who has a birthday between Christmas and New Year's. And Jos has a sister who has a birthday between Christmas and New Year's, and she lost her husband in January. So of course we're going there. And so there is already, family things do come in, and that is good. It's lovely to be with family too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, just as you want it. I love the sound of your New Year's Eve dinner party, and I really want to hear how it went and how the questions got answered. I'm
Yes,
looking forward to
yes.
that. We'll have to talk about it when we come back in season 2 in
Season
January.
2, January 2025.
Wow, that feels like a big step. It just sounds
Yeah,
like a big
gonna
year
be
somehow.
an unpredictable year, I
Very,
predict.
very unpredictable, yes. Well, it will be an interesting year to be 70 in.
It will, and otherwise we will make it so.
We will indeed. So, Lisette, happy Christmas and
Okay,
happy New
you
Year to
too.
you,
Have a lovely time.
and happy
And
Christmas and
see
New
you on
Year
the other
to
side.
see you on the other side. Absolutely. Bye.